Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In this tutorial, we'll be making this silk skirt which has a slit by both sides and the back has a cowl design like the normal cowl neck stuff. If it's something you're interested in, then let's get started. The first measurement I'm going to take is half an inch sewing allowance. My waistline, I'm going to mark cut out my waist measurement. I will also mark 1 inch as my sewing allowance. From my waistline, I'm going to go down by 8 inches. This will be my hip line. From the 8 inches point, I'm going to mark quarter of my hip measurement. Then I'll add 1 inch to it as my sewing allowance. After that, I'm going to connect from my waistline to my hip line. This is actually a long skirt. I'm using this because my pattern paper is not long enough. So when I'm transferring it to my fabric, it will actually be the same process of how I drafted it. That's how it will be on my fabric. For the hem measurement, I'm going to take out 1 inch for my hip measurement. That will be my hem measurement. I'm going to mark it on the hemline. I'm going to shape my hip line so that it won't be sharp. There will not be any sharp edges. I'll go ahead and cut out my pattern once I've taken all the measurements. I'm going to pin my pattern to my fabric to cut out my fabric. I have already folded my fabric into two. Just like I did for my pattern paper, I'm going to take out 1 inch from my hip measurement. Then I'm going to mark whatever I get to my hemline. I'm going to connect my point from my hip line to the hemline with a straight line. After I'm done with that, I'm going to cut out my front piece. Back to my pattern, I'll be using this for my back pattern to get that cowl back. On my waistline, I'm going to go down by 4 inches. Then I'm going to draw a straight line. I'm going to cut the 4 inches line. I will not cut it off totally, just to the end. For my waistline, I'm going to just mark 1 inch interval till I get to the 4 inch line. After that, I'll connect the lines with a straight line. I'm going to cut the lines just like I did for the first one. I won't cut it off totally. For the back, we'll be doing a slash and spread method. I'll be adding a pattern paper underneath the pattern. I'm going to mark 1.5 inch between the lines. You can make yours 1 inch because after I was done making this skirt, I realized the cowl was too deep, so it will be exposing the back area. Once I'm done splashing and spreading, from that waistline on the other side, I'm going to draw a straight line. I'll also connect it straight down to the other pattern. I realized the line I drew was not straight, so I went back to rectify that. I'm going to cut out my pattern once I'm done with everything. I've already pinned my pattern on my fabric just like I did for the front piece. I'll do the same for the back, then I'll cut it out. I've already cut out a rope, should I call it a rope? Yeah, which I'll be using for the front piece. And the rope will go all the way to the back too. So it measures 2 inches. I already folded it with my iron. For the length of the rope, I multiplied it by 2.5 of my waist measurement. Before I start sewing, I'm going to interlock all the sides of my skirt except from the waist. For the back piece, I'm just going to fold it by half of an inch that we left when we're cutting the pattern. Preferably, you should actually cut a facing for this back piece. After sewing that, I'm going to join my back and front together, but on the front piece, I'm going to leave half of an inch sewing allowance, which I'll be using to join the band. Once I'm done with all that, I'm going to pin all the sides together. Then I'll go to my sewing machine to sew. After joining them together, I'm going to get the midpoint of the front piece and also the midpoint of the strap. Then I'm going to just fold it. I'm going to fold the strap on the front piece like that. Then I'm going to sew from the beginning of the strap to like get to the end of the strap. This is how it looks like once I was done sewing. I'll stitch the 1 inch sewing allowance to that back piece so that it won't show, like it will not be coming off when you wear it. I forgot to mention this. I actually just stitched my side seam a little bit below my hip measurement, like 8 inches below my hip measurement, so that it will give us that opening effect. I'm going to stitch the hemline and the side next, then we're basically done with our piece.